Dolphin fans. Let's go!
You're listening to Fin Too Deep.
Tua back to throw. Blitz coming. They get to him. No, he takes off running. And he's in. Touchdown, Miami.
With the sixth pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Jalen Waddle.
Giving you unfiltered, informed, and controversial takes on the Miami Dolphins and the NFL Draft. Here's Reason and Neal.
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we're back here for another one as we dive Fin Too Deep. I'm joined by my co-host on every Thursday, Mr. Neal Driscoll. Neal, you said you threw your back out cheering so hard for the Dolphins on Sunday. I don't really know if I could ask you how you're feeling because, like the intro says, I'm sure it's a beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan every day for you this week, leading up into the New England game. We'll talk about New England in a little bit, but how you feeling coming off that Chargers win? It looks like Herbert versus Tua debate is dead. We can all say both teams got a franchise quarterback. Move on with your life. Now they'll always be compared to who's better, and that'll just take accolades and winning. And Tua 2-1 right now. But hey, a lot of narratives were killed. Can't throw deep because Neal, that throw where he ran up to the line of scrimmage and just uncorked it off platform. That was a Mahomes-esque style throw, Neal. Man, how you feeling after that Chargers game? It was a shootout. I'm sure you're like me and you almost threw up your heart a few times, but how you feeling, man? How I want to get your thoughts on the game and how you felt this week after the game.
Yeah, well, like the 1972 Miami Dolphins, Father Time's undefeated. At 41 years old, I figured that I can't jump 3 feet in the air anymore, or it's not going to be good for me. But I mean, honestly, man, it was a magical weekend. That win energized me for football season. That might have been my favorite opener in recent history that I can remember, because it's not just that we won, it's how we won. The defense that we thought was going to be top 5 in football, which I still think is going to improve and get to where we want it to be, failed us. Yeah. Yet the quarterback that's been thrown under the mud and kicked around by everybody who calls himself an expert in analysis in this league shined brighter than any player in football this week. And sure, he's got Tyreek Hill, but I said a tweet yesterday. It's a delicious irony to me that Tyreek Hill has become more feared and more productive since he left Kansas City. So, for me, you're looking at Tua knocking on the doorsteps for being a bona fide top 5 quarterback in this league, which to me means he's probably a top 5 to 10 player in this league if he continues this. And I see no reason not to. I was blown away. I think he made 3 of the 5 best throws he's made in his career. The throw you mentioned, the 3rd and 15 to Berrios, and that throw to Tyreek in the end zone, you couldn't have walked, handed him the ball, and put it in a better position. I mean, it was impressive as it goes. I mean, this week for me has been watching the cinematic videos, watching anything Dolphins that I can digest, because I mean, dude, it's football season. We love this team, and our teams, we've been talking the talk, and the team's now walking the walk. And look, if this defense figures it out, and they will, opening day, I think they gave up a lot of yards on the ground because that they were intentionally trying to limit Herbert a little bit. But before this season, it seemed like there was nobody who was willing to have this Herbert Tua argument. I would say at the end of this season, we might be having a Herbert Tua Joe Burrow argument where I was a believer when we drafted him. He was the best quarterback in this draft class, and he got it off to the slowest start of those three, right? But this wasn't a 3-year exercise. This is a 10 to 15-year exercise. So, we're not even at midfield yet. So for me, if Tua hits the stride that I think he's about to go on, I mean, this is what we all envisioned when we were jumping in.
Well, bro, this is going to be a legendary draft class, too, if Jordan Love continues to look the way he looked against Chicago. This might go down as this is going to rival the Marino Elway draft. Like, these guys have all the potential.
Jalen Hurts, I forgot.
Exactly.
Right, wow.
This could go down as arguably one of the greatest or the greatest quarterback drafts of all time. Like, five teams finding a franchise quarterback in the first 2 rounds of a draft.
Right. Well, and it's always not about who's the best productive player. Like for me, Tua is more than just the football player aspect of him, right? Like he is a guy.
He's the prototypical guy you want carrying your banner and carrying your franchise and out there in the media.
100%. He looks good. He works hard.
And you want to root with him because he's such a good guy and he's such a hard worker. You know what I mean? Like,
but I love that he's fighting back to the media, man.
Oh, yeah, I love
he is
it.
no longer Mr. Nice Guy. The gloves are off. That swagger that you see from Tyreek Hill is contagious to the rest of this team. And look, man, I'll just say this. I think Tyreek Hill might be the best player in football. I really think he's that
Dude,
good.
I said this. Listen. Let me ask you this. Okay, and first of all, just off of what you said, even Bevel said today, we've been able to see him grow in all kinds of ways, more comfortable with who he is, and you're able to see a little bit more of his personality. It's fun to see. You want guys to be able to be themselves, right? Like even when he was laughing about the whole Terran Armstead leaving him at the side of the road, right? But to what you said on Tyreek, listen, we've seen Marino. We've seen peak Ricky Williams, okay? You're around the same age as I am. We've seen Barry. We've seen Ray Lewis. We've seen Ed Reed. We've seen, Peyton Manning, all these guys.
Tom Brady, yep.
Listen, Dan Marino might be the best quarterback I've ever seen play, but Tyreek Hill might be the best football player I've ever seen. Like,
you can't cover him.
Well, it's not only that. What he does, bro, after the catch, he runs like a running back in open space, but then he's got the 4.2 speed. Like, he's physical, he's elusive. How many guys did he grab the football, whoop, make a miss? It happened every time. And he would make the catch where normal guys would get lit up. They'd catch the ball and they would turn and boom. And he's able, as soon as he turns, because he's so agile, his feet are quicker than a hiccup, he just moves off that spot, and it's ridiculous, bro. His agility is an explosive first step. Like, bro, he just got to move once and he's fucking gone. It's ridiculous, bro. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, and he has great hands. He makes tough catches. He's not afraid of traffic.
When he had that drop late in the game, Neil, I was shocked.
Well,
I was shocked.
Well, and look, and we've been saying this for 3 years at this point. You give Tua time, he's cerebral, he's the best pure passer from the pocket in football. Like, build that wall in front of him, man. I don't even care about this all. If you want to go and spend every draft pick you have at building a wall in front of Tua Tagovailoa, go do it at this point, because if he has time, it doesn't matter who you are, what defense you run, Tua is going to pick you apart. Mike McDaniel, and this win, as much as Tua and Tyreek were kind of the MVPs of the game, what I saw out of Mike McDaniel answered any doubt that I've ever had about the guy, because what we saw from last year to this year was as night and day as it gets. Mike McDaniel was in a lab all year preparing. He has his concepts that he wants, but he finds a million different ways to get to them.
And he had some designs where you had some plays where Tua was manipulating defenders to open windows, but he had some designs that were just
unbelievable.
And they would call the plays based off off keys they had sent earlier. So set those false keys up, and they would totally, they would just manipulate men open just by scheme. Like, McDaniel was really good. Like, I know we all think he can be the final step is unlocking that run game, but it kind of goes back to what you said earlier when we started talking about like Mostert and stuff. Listen, I think, I've said this before, I'll say it again. It was the first video I did when I came back, Neil. This Jonathan Taylor thing ain't done.
No,
all right. Like my guy told me, He's not playing another down for the Colts. And you already heard the report yesterday, Neal. He wants to come back as soon as they're able to come off the PUP list. And they already putting out the little seeds there that it might be for another team.
Yeah, they're going to get him for a second-round pick and some change. I think that's going to happen. I'm going to stick to that. I think that's what's going to happen. I think the Colts
Packers are out, right? It was that same article where the Packers are out.
And their offer wasn't even in the ballpark of what Miami's was. So I think that, we'll see what the Dolphins look like then. But I'm not, at this point, knowing what the market was like, I think a second round pick and some change is a fair offer. I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what this offense could look like with Jonathan Taylor.
Austin Jackson keeps blocking the way he's been blocking too. Oh my Lord. And Isaac will win too.
I'm not going to formally apologize yet because I need to see it more than once. Yeah. But Austin Jackson definitely played his best game as a Dolphin. I mean, he kicked Joey Bosa's ass all day long. He kicked Joey Bosa's ass.
And when Khalil stepped up too, he had him a few times.
And I'll say this, man. Like, I'm happy that Armstead's back on the practice field. Looks like he's going to play. But Kendall Lamb is a very important player to have on this roster because that guy is a starting caliber left tackle in this football league. I mean, if that line plays like that all this year, everything that we've talked about, the Super Bowl contention, all that is a reality. And the team is actually better than I thought. And I was, I'm the guy who's saying that they're going to win Super Bowl. We're all, you're picking them to go 14-3. Like, we're into this team thinking that they have a bad offensive line. If this offensive line finds a way to continue this, and like I understand that Khalil Mack's not the player he was 5 years ago, but Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa is a top 5 pass rushing tandem in this league. They have Derwin James on the other side of the ball.
He was phenomenal. Derwin,
whether we like him or not, J.C. Jackson, he got toasted all damn day long. The only interception that was there was a clear pass interference, hands fully extended on the back. But for whatever, that guy's making $19 million a year. Dude, man, wow, what a horrible investment. I'm glad it didn't work out for us because that's where it looked like he was coming originally, was J.C. Jackson to Miami. He looked awful out there. But, like, I think they have a lot of talent on defense. I just think when you run into an offense that is that complex with that much talent, you're going to get your ass kicked. This Dolphins team has a chance to have a historic offense. I'm through the roof, man. If you guys can't tell by my voice, this is exactly what we've been talking about.
What do you think about Fangio accepting blame for the Dolphins defense allowing 234 rushing yards today when he said just didn't have the guys ready to play the type of game I think they're capable of playing? Because I've said this before. We saw a lot of stuff we've seen when Flores was running the show, when Boyer was alone with no Flores running the show, bad angles, poor pursuit at times by over pursuing, right? You saw poor tackling technique at times. You saw a lot of similar, and for the first 3 quarters, Jalen Phillips was the same old story, almost getting there. We saw when we're not manufacturing pressure, what's the thing we've seen in the past couple of years? When we don't manufacture the pressure, we haven't been able to get the pressure. It once again was in a defense where we're relying on the front 4 to get a lot of that pressure early on. So we saw a lot of the same habits popping up, and you got Wilkins wanting $24 million. We're all expecting Phillips to break out, and he's got a big contract coming up. Chubb got traded for and paid last year, and I've said to people, Neal, if you're making the argument that Roquan Smith should have been the move last year, you might have a point. And then, you got Seiler just got extended, and Raekwon needs money, and the push was just not there. But I think Fangio's just taking the darts, because I saw a lot of things that I've seen before Fangio even got here out of this personnel. And I've said before, Neal, there's a certain time you got to stop pointing the finger at coaching, and you got to start pointing the finger at personnel, because if Tua was still playing the way he was playing in Kaylee's ISO offense under Mike McDaniel, everyone would be pointing at Tua saying you've been through all these different coordinators and a couple of head coaches and you're the same old guy. But we've seen the growth. We've seen now he's at an MVP level. These guys, sure, they can play great at certain times, but we're seeing similar bad habits pop up, and now our new defensive coordinator is taking the bullets, and I think behind the scenes, Neal, he's ripping them and letting them know that they need to do their damn job.
I'm going to give you 3 positives on the defense. First of all, Javon Holland, man, that guy is a freaking stud.
14 tackles, but that shows how bad our linebackers were when he has 14 tackles, and Deshaun Elliott has like 13, bro. They were cleaning up the second level.
Well, and the funny thing about Holland, not only does he make tackles, dude, but he's such an enforcer, man. Jalen Phillips, he had 7 pressures. He did get that half sack when it mattered most.
But didn't you feel like all those pressures came mainly in the fourth?
Right, but the only thing I'll say in his defense is that it wasn't like Herbert was passing a lot and beating us. They were committed to the run game.
Quick. It was all underneath stuff too, right?
Brandon Jones wasn't ready to be back out. They should have probably had him inactive. That was a bad move. Bradley Chubb, Rashawn Slater kicked his ass. It just is what it is. Bradley Chubb, I talked his praises. Bradley Chubb's on notice. It's time to start making some plays, Bradley Chubb, because you're paying a lot. And you're here for 2 more years, but after that, we will move on from you if you don't start living up to that contract. I love him as a leader. I think he's a good presence to have out there, but we need 10 sacks from Bradley Chubb this year to justify that contract, right? Yeah. Jerome Baker, just like anytime we see a team that runs against us on skates.
And in coverage.
Jerome Baker had one of his worst games.
That throw Herbert made on him because he didn't drop deep enough into his hole, Neal, and it just went right over. Like, oh my God!
Right. Well, and David Long got pulled. He only played, I think, 17 snaps. I do think it was a bad matchup. They were targeting him in the pass. He wasn't getting.
Fangio claims it's because Van Ginkel's a starting inside linebacker in the nickel packages. That's what his claim was today.
I saw David Long shooting the hole, but he was shooting the wrong hole.
Wrong hole.
His diagnosis was wrong. That was the problem. I think David Long's going to be way better. I'm not worried about him. The Christian Wilkins conversation is going to be a big one all year. He made a couple of nice run stops, no doubt about it. If you're
those
saying
2 back-to-back plays,
right? Yeah, they were great. But if you're saying, let's just say that the number's $24 million, we circle and star that. And there's 2 sides. There's the Miami Dolphins, there's Christian Wilkins. Well, the Miami Dolphins are 1-0, and Christian Wilkins is 0-1. He didn't do anything out there that looked like a $24 million a year player. Now, the good news, I think, is that this defense is pissed off. They're watching this offense get ranked number 1 nationally. You're watching every national pundit saying, but their defense sucks. This defense does not suck. You got to remember, their best football player is out right now, who's Jalen Ramsey. But he still jumped up.
You see that, eh? He's coming back October, bro.
Yeah, he jumped up with a bad knee and didn't have to go to the doctor because he got hurt. I jumped up with a healthy knee and I had to go to the doctor because my back got hurt. But I think overall, one guy that I got to give a lot of flowers to is we're in that point of this conversation right now when Jalen Ramsey's out that we have to say that the second best defensive back on this team is Tagovailoa, and that's over X. And I don't think X played bad. He had a couple penalties, but I don't mind a couple 5-yard grabby penalties. He looks slow. He looks slow out there. I agree. I'm a big believer that we could be looking at Xavier Howard's last year as a Dolphin, and I don't mean that to be insensitive or mean. I love X. I think he's a Ring of Honor guy. With the cap savings you get from moving on from him, and whether maybe he'll take a reduced salary to stay here, I could see that happening. He looked a little slow. Kader Kohou, outside of Javon Holland's the best defensive back on this team right now, and Deshaun Elliott.
Well. Yeah, he did play pretty well. Yeah,
he played pretty well, and I expected that, but. I expected a little bit more out of Zach Sealer. I want to see more of that this week. I think the defense will bounce back nicely this year. But I do give Vic Fangio credit for one thing, though. If he saw David Long not working and he took him out, I like that. Accountability is key here. Know your assignment. Know your role. If you don't do it, we'll put someone else that does it. But I'm telling you right now, when you look at the shopping list for the Miami Dolphins after this season, the number one thing on there is going to be linebacker. This team is going to be looking for a foundational linebacker of either the draft, free agency. Trust me, Vic Fangio, you don't pay this guy $4 to $5 million to be your defensive coordinator and not give him the linebacker he wants. That's something that will happen in this offseason.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to show you this too, Neal. We've gone from Tua, he can't throw it deep. He can't throw it deep to Dan Orlovsky. He's one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL.
I mean, look, man.
Oh, my God, the swerve.
You always have to talk about Patrick Mahomes when you talk about the great quarterbacks in football, right? He's a unicorn. He's a one-of-one. Yeah. How he wins is off-script plays, throwing the ball downfield. Now, look, he won a Super Bowl last year. Pat Mahomes won a Super Bowl this year, right? Last year, right? That team has a wide receiver problem right now in Kansas City.
Oh, yeah.
If they don't make a move for a Mike Evans or something like that, they're not repeating. They're not. Their defense isn't good enough. Like Travis Kelce, I feel like
that's creeping in. That's us creeping in right now, baby. That's what it is.
I'll never forget this when Tua came out in the draft. It was Kirk Herbstreit who said this. and it was about the it was the God, what game was it? It was Alabama LSU showdown. It was Burrow versus Tua. And he came out and he's like, Tua's always going to come out swinging. And, had this video of just Tua throwing bombs all over the field. We are seeing Tua get comfortable. Like, I actually think something that I thought of today that I didn't really ever consider. I think the Dolphins overachieved last year, meaning I think that last year with Mike McDaniel was a feeling out process. They were trying to test this offense, get Tua comfortable, see what works. They wanted these explosive weapons. It started to really hit. Then Tua kind of, he got injured and missed 5 games. The grasp that this has team, the complexity of this offense is only growing because, the team's digested so much of the playbook. Like, I honestly think that when you look at the end of this season and you look at this offensive production, that you're going to say that Mike McDaniel is the transcendent NFL head coach for what he's doing to his team.
One of the things we talked about yesterday on the finish line with Richmond and ball game, we talked about how Dolphin fans, should feel blessed of where Tua is at right now and what we have, because this is what we've been waiting for since Marino. But we also said we should be blessed that we have McDaniel because, he's the best coach in terms of personality and how he gets along with everyone, but from Sperano. But Ryan Clark said Sunday, Neal, that was one of the best play calling wise games he's seen from a young offensive minded coach. So I said, should we be blessed and count our blessings that we have arguably one of or the most genius offensive mind as a head coach right now. We got brightest, right? We got one of the brightest or the brightest young offensive minded head coach in the NFL right now. Should we be counting our blessings? Because look at McVay's young, all these guys are young, but everyone talking about McDaniel, what McDaniel's doing right now, right? And we got to ride this wave. And this goes back to where, he can go down as the best coach we've had since Shula, and this could happen within the next 3 years easily, man.
Well, look, Mike McDaniel deserves his flowers for the fact that where he took over this team, he had a broken quarterback. He could have said, let's kick him to the curb and go get me someone I'm familiar with. But we were talking about accolades. Put Richmond Webb in the Hall of Fame. Xavier Howard's going to the Ring of Honor. If you want to start a ring of failure, the first candidate they should go in there is Brian Flores. I mean, what this guy did set our franchise back, but Mike McDaniel's literally in his first year changed the culture. And by changing the culture, he put Tua Tagovailoa back together again. But not only did he do that, he empowered him to be the player that he should be, that he's always been, instead of trying to force a round peg in a square hole like Brian Flores did and make him a game manager. We are seeing the cocky Tua who's confident in his arm. He's going to stick the ball in tough spots. It's not always going to be perfect, but that's why I love Tua. He's a battle-tested cat,
but look at what he's also done with, i.e., Jalen Waddle. Do you remember Jalen Waddle in year 1 where everything was inside 5 yards or 7 yards, and then teams by the end of the season were just collapsing on it, and Jalen Waddle was having to beat 4 guys. Now, last year he leads the league in yards per reception. Look at 3 catches for over 70 yards, and how many of them were slants or something? The only shortest yard was 8 yards, and now he's turned into one of the most explosive big play threats. Look at what we're talking about Austin Jackson. Isaiah Wynn was about to be written off because they put him under an idiot like Matt Patricia and had him run the offensive line, and they kicked him right tackle, and people started writing Isaiah Wynn off, looking like him. Did you see the clip of Mike McDaniel going over one of the plays there, and it was a passing play, but he was pointing out what Isaiah Wynn did? And
oh my God, you look so good out there, man.
You look at what he's turned Kendall Lamb. Kendall Lamb's in his early 30s. He's not some 24-year-old kid that's been, or 26-year-old kid he's 31. Yeah. And look at him. He's playing his best football. And everyone wrote off Butch Berry. Remember the rumors, Neal?
Yep.
All the rumors. Players didn't like him. Well, and players were revolting. Well, you know what it looks like, Neal, to me? He got he converted that Denver scheme to what we're doing here, because that's what he wanted to do. He got them a top 10 in pass block win rate. And it seems like Dalton Reisner and guys like that who can't find jobs were the ones that were complaining because they weren't good enough in the new scheme. And and Butch Berry has a job, is getting praised, and Dalton Reisner is in the freaking, Does he
We
even have a job?
we don't need him. We don't need him. And honestly, you're right. I wasn't impressed with the Butch Berry hire, but like I'm wrong, and I'm not going to act like I'm an offensive line coach guru and I know everything about him. It's probably what I know least about in football is these offensive line coaches. But like the way that team played in week 1, we have not seen that cohesiveness. We also saw them willing to move off of Liam Eichenberg to put the better player in. And we did that. We did all that without.
And that feels like it was Butch, bro. That feels like
Right.
Butch was just like, nah, like I ain't rooting for this.
Reason we did that without a top 5 left tackle in football being on the field for us.
Yeah, bro.
That's what makes that job important. When Taron
Wait till he's back.
Yeah, look, and I'm okay with Kendall Lamb starting this game and Armstead working his way back. But I will tell you this. I don't care how good Kendall Lamb looks. When Taron Armstead's ready, you put Taron Armstead in that game.
Oh, of course.
Taron Armstead is Taron Armstead. Like, I love Kendall Lamb. I'd actually love
and Austin Jackson better keep up what he did in week 1 because if he starts slipping up, I heard since the offseason, if he slips up, Kendall Lamb's going to right tackle.
Well, here's a question for you. Would you rather, and we could talk about it more in a lot later day, would you rather pay Christian Wilkins or would you rather pay Raekwon Davis, Austin Jackson? God, I'm already giving him extensions. Kendall Lamb, Robert Hunt, and probably go get an inside linebacker for the same cost.
What's happening with Connor? Bye-bye?
Dude, if that guy puts another freaking ball on the ground, he ain't going to have a chance to hit free agency because he's going to meet Neal Driscoll with a freaking tire iron in a parking lot, man. Like, dude, because I'll tell you what. I didn't text you, man, but I was about to have a nervous breakdown early on that one, man.
Man.
I was like walking off, Neal, because just think about that. If you put 7 in there and you put up 41 points on the opener against the Chargers, look, Connor played awesome after the snaps got out of the way, but I do think that we're going to lose a game because of Connor Williams this year.
Well, what have I said, Neal, for 2 years now? Yeah, he's an all-pro after the snap. That's
right.
Jesus.
But the reality is we could probably keep him, Robert Hunt, Raekwon Davis, Kendall Lamb, and Austin Jackson almost for the same cost that it would cost to keep Rich Wilkins.
If this offensive line keeps playing the way it's playing, I'm keeping the offensive line together.
Right. I'm with
because Austin Jackson, you ain't gonna be able to come and ask for big money at the table, even off one
$3 to $5 million 1 year prove it deal. How
2 years just in case it's for real, so I can get it for 2 years.
How hard were you laughing when you saw the Cowboys scored a touchdown though, and it was no Egg McNogany?
Oh, buddy, I was live. I was in the post game show. I think we're wrapping it up.
Dude,
this guy.
I gotta watch it. I watched your end. Even though I wasn't live, I watched the game live, but I came back and watched your end when they won because I love it. It reminded me of the Ravens game.
Oh, buddy, that was a beautiful time, man. Okay, let's get into this because let's stir the pot. I was gonna make it into a short today, but I said, nah, we'll wait for when we do it. I could have made it a short. Maybe I'll still throw it up. But anyways, let's play it. Is trouble brewing in Buffalo with Stefon Diggs? Because yesterday they left the mic on and they had a hot mic, and let's listen in, baby.
Oh.
I think they're trying for Steph and Micah is who they're trying for. Hey, there's no control over Stefon Diggs. Yeah. Dude's gonna do what he wants to do.
Coming over there, Steph, get your ass.
Nope. He'll look at my face and say "F you." That's how he treats everybody.
Wow.
Brother. So here's the thing. Dog. You know what's crazy about this, Neal? You know what's the craziest part, Neal? This isn't some newspaper reporter from Buffalo. She works for the Buffalo Bills. She is
for now.
Yeah. She's Maddie Glab, the Buffalo Bills reporter. Now she issued an apology saying, "I'm very sorry and I said for what I said and meant no ill will or respect the hell out of Stefon Diggs. He's been one of my favorite players to cover. He has a great character and treats us media with lots of respect." I mean, I think they would have fired her already, bro. I think they're choosing even the reporter over Diggs. I mean, what's it going to look like? Are the Rams going to swoop in and offer their first-round pick? Where's it going next year, Neal? Because we've already heard with how week 1 went. with how week 1 went with Josh Allen, with what we know, the beef between him and Josh Allen in the offseason and how pissed off he's been since they got knocked out by KC with 11 seconds left. And we now know that McDermott also is the one who took over the play calling and got rid of Leslie Frazier and wants to take over the play calling. And he took away the play calling when they lost with those 11 seconds left to KC. So we know players are bitter that he got rid of Leslie Frazier because they think he's a better defensive coordinator than McDermott. It's this whole big mess where McDermott could be fired by the end of the season and Stefon Diggs could be dealt at the end of the season as well if things don't go right in Buffalo. And Neal, when we did our prediction show, I chose us to sweep the AFC East. Aaron Rodgers is down. We're undefeated against New England. We'll talk a little bit about that later. And it's below 0 already in September. It's chilly and frosty up there in Buffalo right now, my friend. Things are falling, and Mahomes is in danger with. I think they'll figure it out. Not just I think the Bengals will figure it out. But cylinders are clicking in Miami out the gate. Our team is tighter than they've ever been before. And trouble's brewing in Buffalo, brother. I got to get your thoughts on Stefon Diggs. What jersey's it in next year? Come on, tell me.
So I'll tell you this about Diggs. He played high school locally here at Good Counsel, and he went to the same school as me. I went to Maryland. I know Stefon Diggs. I've met him, and he did a lot because he did a lot for charity in the area, and he was a really good guy when he was at Maryland. What it tells me is that he's beyond his wits' end in Buffalo, if that's how he's treating people. And it's a very frustrating circumstance. And what we're seeing with the Buffalo Bills is we're seeing a team, right? We're seeing a team that had their window and it closed
and everyone knows it, baby.
And they know it.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen's playing panicked football. Stefon Diggs is unhappy. They're making knee-jerk moves like getting well-respected coaches like Leslie Frazier out the door. I mean, look, dude, I heard all offseason that Dalton Kincaid was the next Travis Kelce, and he wasn't even Durham Smythe. And you know what I mean? But, at the end of the day, there's a lot of pressure on them. They're an older team. They had to let Tremaine Edmonds go. I mean, I think there's a lot of pressure on Sean McDermott because he's that really good head coach that can't get over the hump. So I do think Stefon Diggs is playing his last season.
And he's losing the locker room, too, now.
Yeah, I think he is playing his last season. And honestly, man, I think he's
going to be an Arizona Cardinal when they get Caleb Williams. Is that what they're going to trade for him?
Nah, because I think they're going to have back-to-back picks and get Marvin Harrison-Jones right after him. Honestly, man, I can see
Brown?
I think he might end up in Kansas City because I think they're going to lose Chris Jones. And I think he wants to probably play with a quarterback that can get him the football. The Chiefs need a receiver and win.
He clearly wants to win.
Yeah, but I don't think the trade will happen during the season. But I think Stefon Diggs is going to force his way out of Buffalo because I think they're going to face a lot of adversity. Look, let's not hold any punches to it. The Jets season ended on the fourth snap of Aaron Rodgers' tenure there. And I honestly don't think we're ever going to see Aaron Rodgers in the NFL again. And I honestly – I think it's good for the Dolphins.
What a sad way to go.
I don't want to see a legend like Aaron Rodgers go out like that. I honestly would have liked to have some battles with him, to be honest. I mean, it is what it is. They're done with Zach Wilson. I don't care how – Zach Wilson sucks. He's the worst starting quarterback in football. I'm on record to say it. But you know what? He still beat the Buffalo Bills. So, that tells me that – and he's beaten the Bills before. And it tells me, man, that they just – that chemistry is not there. Stefon Diggs and Josh Allen, they're not. You see when on the sidelines when Tua and Tyreek are laughing, they're smiling. They don't have that camaraderie right now.
No one does in the AFC East. Who does Mac have that with? No one has it right now.
Mac's in for a long day.
We're the best offense just off the bond they clearly have with each other. We're at the highest of highs right now with this offense and how everyone's getting along.
I mean, look, dude, I think you can make a case that the first-round pick we traded for Tyreek Hill is the best trade we've ever made, honestly. I said this jokingly, but I kind of mean it. I trade 5 first-round picks for Tyreek Hill. Not only is Tyreek Hill the player, part of Mike McDaniel rebuilding Tua's confidence, the other catalyst to it has been Tyreek Hill, man. The way he's taken Tua under his wave, the way they've worked together, man, that's a special bond right there. And look, we're talking a lot, and we're not talking about Jalen Waddle yet. He had 4 catches for 80 yards. He almost averaged 20 yards a catch. He almost made the same play he made against Green Bay. Yeah, he caught a slant and took it 38 yards. Jalen Waddle is going to blow up this week too. But yeah, I think there's trouble in the AFC East. I actually think the division is not going to be as good as everyone thought. And now it's easy to say that after Aaron Rodgers go down. But I think there will be 2 teams that get out of it. I don't think there's going to be 3 anymore. But man, it's hard for me to say that it's going to be the Jets with Zach Wilson. I don't know, man. Buffalo does not look like the Buffalo Bills that have had our number the last few years. So I'm excited to play them. Week 4 can't get here. We'll be 3-0 when we play them. So
something I wanted to go over here. This article came out from The Athletic today, and some interesting stuff said here by an NFL evaluator and a rival head coach, and just a lot of good stuff to take away here. So it's behind the paywall. Tagovailoa Dolphins turnaround might be without precedent. So figuring out how games are won in the NFL sounds simple, but is often overlooked. Narratives form around quarterbacks based on team results beyond the quarterback's control. When circumstances around a quarterback shift, the narrative shifts as well. Jared Goff's boom or bust career with the Los Angeles Rams and Detroit Lions is one example. Derek Carr's move from the Raiders to the Saints provides another case to monitor. I'm not sure we've seen in decades an overnight transformation surrounding a quarterback as extreme as the one launching the Miami Dolphins Tua Tagovailoa on his current trajectory. Shout out to Nick Hicks.
yeah,
The Dolphins
great job.
have pivoted so dramatically. He's in Italy right now. Eat all that pizza you got, buddy. Enjoy your life. The Dolphins Dolphins have pivoted so dramatically in personnel, coaching, and philosophy as to be unrecognizable from only 20 games ago. A Dolphins team that won in spite of its offense is now winning because of it, in spite of its defense, and they forgot to say in spite of its head coach at the time, and in spite of its defense, special teams with the same quarterback. Miami's 36-34 victory against the Los Angeles Chargers in Week 1, complete with Tagovailoa passing for 466 yards, was the latest example of a shift unlike any other recently. What is happening and what can be learned? Before the Dolphins hired former San Francisco 49ers offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel as head coach in 2022, they employed a defensive head coach looking to minimize offensive risk for an inexperienced quarterback ill-equipped to overcome deficiencies around him. Those deficiencies included poor skill position play, questionable offensive design, and coordinator instability. Oh, they forgot poor offensive coaching. The Dolphins subsequently acquired Tyreek Hill, the NFL's most feared weapon, and implemented a well-conceived offensive system through McDaniel, who has customized his offense for his quarterback. Check this out. This looks like what Tua did at Alabama, an NFL team evaluator said after watching the Dolphins Chargers tape. It's like they just found a guy, McDaniel, that lets Tua do what Tua does best. A rival coach said his team studied the Dolphins offense during the offseason and they borrowed concepts from the offense. The rival coach said, I was very impressed watching their stuff. They have done the right thing with how they have built the system and with the players leaning into Tua's accuracy and anticipation, leaning into their speed. Under Flores, Tagovailoa averaged 9.9 yards per completed pass. 5 players accounted for 2/3 of his passing yardage. Mike Gesicki, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker, and Durham Smythe. And Jalen Waddle, with only 1 season under Flores, is on that list. Under McDaniel, Tagovailoa is averaging 14 yards per completion. 4.1 yards more, with 2/3 of his passing yards allocated to 2 players, Hill and Waddle. Gesicki was Tagovailoa's leading receiver under Flores with 807 yards, 22 games. Hill had 1/3 that total, 266 against the Chargers in Week 1 alone. Now, Miami made Tagovailoa the 5th pick in the 2020 draft and named him its starter at its bye week that season, despite a 4-2 record. To that point, with Ryan Fitzpatrick starting, Tagovailoa struggled and was benched late in the season. The snapshot below illustrates how much the Dolphins have changed from Tagovailoa's first 2 seasons when Flores was a coach to the period after McDaniel took over last season. Both coaches won better than 60% of the time when Tagovailoa was in the lineup, but they won in completely different ways. Look at this EPA ranking since drafting Tua. Under Flores, 26th on offense, 4th on defense, 12th on special teams, and 2nd on defense and special teams. Under McDaniel, 6th on offense, 25th on defense, 28th on special teams, and 30th on defense and special teams. That's why I'm surprised Crossman has a job. The table shows where the Dolphins ranked in EPA on offense, defense, and special teams. And what's crazy is look at the record: 19-14 for 5.76 win percentage, and 10-8 for McDaniel for a 5.56. So Imagine if this defense just even gets middle of the pack. That's going to be unbelievable. So the table shows where the Dolphins ranked in EPA on expected points added on offense, defense, special teams, and defense special teams combined. No other team has come close to making such a transformation over this time frame. The Dolphins have risen from 26 on offense during Tagovailoa's first 2 seasons to 6 since then. They have fallen from 2nd to 30th on defense and special teams. The combined 48 spot shift, 20 spots up on offense and 28 down on defense and special teams, is the largest in the NFL over that span. Jacksonville is second at 39. The average combined changes 18 spots for the 31 other teams from Miami. So, I mean, you look at the cumulative EPA right here. That's crazy right there, man. That is nuts. So, the EPA models are useful for isolating performance in these phases because they measure how the expectation for scoring changes after every play, appropriating the credit and blame to individual units accordingly. For example, the Detroit Lions pick 6 interception against the Kansas City Chiefs in week 1 produced an 8.1 point swing in EPA. That is the difference between the value of the Kansas City possessing the ball on 3rd and 6 near midfield, which was 1.3 expected points, and the result of the play, which was a touchdown for Detroit. The play was worth 8.1 EPA for the Lions defense and minus 8.1 EPA for the Chiefs offense. Once all plays are counted, the EPA totals approximate the actual final score differential. And Tua stands alone with this. Tua is one of 89 quarterbacks since 2000 to start at least 10 games with more than one head coach. In Tagovailoa's 21 starts under Flores, the Dolphins were 9.2 EPA per game or better on defense, special teams than they were on offense, a huge gap. That flipped in the 14 McDaniel era starts, where he's gone 9-5. Look at his winning percentage. Okay, check this. Tua under Flores has a winning percentage of 0.619, but under McDaniel has a winning percentage of 0.643. So he's 9-5 under McDaniel. He's 13-8 under Flores, with the offense outperforming the defense special teams by 9.9 EPA per game. So they totally flipped. It used to be 9.2 EPA per game or better for the defense compared to the offense. Now it's 9.9 EPA is a difference of the offense higher than the defense. That's crazy. None of the other 88 quarterbacks have participated in such a large symmetrical swing from one coach to the next. It's early in McDaniel's tenure, so the gap could shrink. So far, though, so extreme. The Dolphins' willingness to make 180-degree pivots in hiring and philosophy landed Miami in the cyclical category for volatile teams in the Athletics. Randy Mueller joined me in categorizing all 30 teams for our recent future rankings project. This particular shift likely saved Tagovailoa's career. If the offense remains strong, a new defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, can restore the defense, Miami will become a contender. In the meantime, Tagovailoa must prove he can remain healthy enough to play a full season, which he has yet to do. The Dolphins must prove they can sustain a high-level offense, which they struggled to do last offseason. The 50 coaching executives participating in the 2023 quarterback tier survey for the Athletics this past season overwhelmingly placed Tagovailoa into tier 3, entering with 16 quarterbacks ranking higher. There was optimism Tagovailoa could continue to produce in McDaniel's system with elite weaponry. There was skepticism regarding his durability and his ability to create offense when plays were disrupted. On the last point, Tagovailoa showed progress against the Chargers, especially when he delivered an accurate deep pass while moving briskly towards the line of scrimmage, which is difficult to do. Tagovailoa also threw efficiently when scrambling to his left, which is his dominant side. The Dolphins enter week 2 as a 3.5-point favorite against the New England Patriots. That's another extreme reversal from not too long ago. So you see how this offense is flipped, and we go back to how it was in Bama, Neal, with Tuscaloosa Tua, how explosive we were. I mean, like, let's put the Herbert, let's put the LSU Alabama game in context. Sorry, the LSU and Alabama to the Chargers and Dolphins game in context. Very similar styles, but we came out the winner this time with the 2 big quarterback matchup, and I think we could beat the Bengals too, speaking of Burrow. But you remember how that offense, you know, they used to lean on Tua and the run game, but I think we're talking about a totally different, we're talking about South Florida Tua right now. We're talking about Miami Tua, you know, we're talking about the South Florida King, because Tuscaloosa Tua, he wasn't as good as, well, obviously he wasn't as good as Tua is, but he didn't have what Tua's shown Tua has shown he can produce without a running game, where if we go back to the LSU game, remember the first half of that, they really leaned on Tua and they couldn't keep up with LSU. Then they involved Najee. Tua brought them back, and Tua just lit it up once the threat of the run game was implied. But now you see Tua's at a point where he's carrying the team with really no real run threat, Neal. I mean, they're basically implying Tuscaloosa Tua is back, but I think we're seeing a Tua we've never seen before, Neal.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people just don't pay attention and jump on narratives where you failed to mention that we had musical chairs, at offensive coordinator, right? We had, a head coach that didn't believe in his player that wanted to be a game manager. We had a piss poor offensive line. We had Isaiah Ford and Devontae Parker as our starting wide receivers. You wanted this kid to make chicken salad out of chicken shit, and it just wasn't happening. And there's no quarterback in football that can do that. Like Patrick Mahomes had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Justin Herbert has Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, and then they go out and get Quentin Johnston, and he had Hunter Henry when he came in the league. Joe Burrow's got Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Like these teams, like
Joe Mixon, he's got a running game.
Right. Everyone just fails to pay attention. Now, I started covering the NFL draft in 2015, which makes that, I think, 19 drafts that I've covered, and I started charting quarterbacks. So, my number 3 of all time was Trevor Lawrence. My 1A and 1B are Andrew Luck and Tua Tagovailoa. The thing that we're seeing is we're seeing a reincarnated version of Drew Brees, not just because of how Tua plays. That's what he reminded me of, the left-handed Drew Brees. We heard that a lot. His story in the NFL is similar, right? Drew Brees was injured. The Chargers gave up on him, right? Like they were done with him. Luckily enough for us, Mike McDaniel came in and said, you know what? Let's not give up on him. He's great. Let's utilize him.
Yeah.
We are seeing that type of resurgence in Tua Tagovailoa's career where, we can always throw if healthy. Drew Brees, we threw out if healthy. Drew Brees was healthy and statistically is one of the best quarterbacks ever.
Yep.
I think we're going to see that with Tua Tagovailoa. I think this is a guy that's going to go on a Hall of Fame caliber career going forward. I think he is going to be among the top 5 quarterbacks in production every year. The Dolphins are going to be perennial winners, and the whole narrative is going to change. This is going to be the best story that we've seen in football in a very, very long time, and I'm happy that I have a front row seat to watch it because I think Tua got as unfair of a deal as any player I've ever seen come in this league, definitely since Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow did as well. I think what happens with this media is the media is a bully. And they like to pick up on stories and, they want to throw out all these ads like we're anti-depression, anti-suicide, all this stuff. But then they beat their own players into submission, like by the pundits that they have on ESPN and NFL.com. There's no patience in this world anymore. Steve Young went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and never was nothing. Then he came to the 49ers, learned under Montana, and was great, won Super Bowls, won MVPs. There's got to be a patience factor to this. There's got to be a contextual factor to this, right? But at the end of the day, that's what makes Tua Tua, is overcoming all that bullshit to get to the other side. I call it the Shawshank Redemption theory, man. When Tim Robbins clears through that sewer and he's out with the water hitting him, man, that's my favorite picture in the world because that's how I look at life. And I think for Tua, I said he had good karma coming his way this year, man. Look at the narratives change, man. You can hear the narratives change. Every time I turn on something now, it's positive Tua. And I'm like, Colin Cowherd? Like, what? Chris Sims? Mike Florio? Like
even Phil Sims, too, his dad.
Right. Like, Tua's always been this player. You can't put people in positions where they don't utilize their strength. They'll never be successful, right? Like, you can be the best chef in the world. If I put you in a kitchen, I buy you ramen noodles, and I give you some plastic utensils, you can't make a Michelin star meal. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. So for me personally, I think as a fan of the Miami Dolphins, but more importantly as a fan of football, getting to watch Tua rewrite this narrative is going to be one of the most fun things I've ever experienced for my love of the NFL and the Miami Dolphins.
And another thing too, I mean, like, dude, I mean, when you talk about what Tua's done, man, like it's just, man, I mean, you talked about his. I wanted to ask you too. Well, I'll ask you that after. We did talk about, he was your second highest graded quarterback, since you've been doing this, and a lot of us had that, right? A lot of us who watch film, and a lot of us who are in the draft class. I was up there. A lot of us had that. You look around, and to see it finally unfolding, it's kind of like, when Jordan Love was coming out, I was in love with Jordan Love, but I told everyone, you need 2 years. You need to let the guy sit on the bench and learn for 2 years. And it's like, it goes back to what you said earlier about how this isn't a 3 or 4 year process. This is this isn't a sprint. This is a marathon. And just to see the vindication and for this kid alone who's been through what he's been through. I know, that article talked about how this turnaround is unprecedented. Well, look at, I haven't seen a guy who was lost and he's found a better level since Alex Smith when he found Andy Reid. Really? Like, people were writing him off. He looked a little good under Harbaugh there, and then Harbaugh got rid of him. And then, and then under Andy Reid, he found the next level, and they brought in Patrick Mahomes, right? But, this is quite the redemption story, because the thing is, at least Alex Smith had coaches that believed in him. Tua never had that. You saw what Baker Mayfield, what it did for how Baker Mayfield acted out and how all that went into Cleveland, and and he just took it on. He's just been such a pro, man. And to see it work out for him, it's honestly, man, it's phenomenal to see. I want to get your thoughts on this though, Neal. Because it's been talked about so many times. What if Marino played in the NFL today? And it's just been one of those things. And Marino talked about it. Look what Marino talked about when it comes to about throwing for 6,000 yards.
Would you have liked to have a couple runs against some of these defenses just because of how well you did against a completely different era of defense?
Well, it's all different, but yes, why not? I mean, the best part about this is I'm retired. I don't have to prove it. So yes, we'd throw for 6,000 yards. And I will say that defenses in the middle of my career and then towards the end, and they got a little more complex, and guys do a lot more things now as far as blitzing and changing personnel and all that than I did earlier in my career. Later in my career, I had to deal with it. But so it would be a lot of fun. I wish I could. So that's why we're trying to unretire here. And
that's right.
Doing a commercial so I can come back and throw for 6,000 yards. And if I had a chance to throw with Jerry and Randy and have Emmitt Smith, I'm sure I'd do it.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill too. But
Tyreek too. Yes,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
With defenses, like what specifically do you think changed? What was the impetus? Was it just more defensive coordinators getting smarter? Was it just defenses? Was it, people just looking at the influence of Pittsburgh or whoever it was? Like what changed with defenses midway through your career?
Well, that's it. I mean, I think back about, doing like the zone fire blitzes, all those things that are going on now. A guy, Dick LeBeau, he's in the Hall of Fame. Dick LeBeau is a famous player and also a, defensive coordinator. I think if I remember correctly, he was the first one that started to introduce a lot of that stuff and the mugging and getting 11 guys on the line of scrimmage. And a lot of guys did that. They didn't do it as much as, the Steelers did. So that's when it started to kind of change, and they're still doing it today. And it's the substitution, the different personnels. I mean, all that. When I first came in, it was pretty standard what you were doing. Everybody to change a little bit, but not that much. Now it's changed a lot more. So you have to, as a quarterback, you have to be a lot more disciplined in, your protections and everything that you do.
Is there a rule change that you think opened up things for modern quarterbacks now that you kind of wish you had a couple of years ago?
Well, I think the fact, and I agree with it, it's, it should be that, is that you can't hit, the quarterback the way you used to. You can't get a shot in the head. You can't go under your knees. And that's a good thing, I think, because when I played, you were allowed to do that, and players could take shots at you. So that, and then the fact that, as far as down the field, the PIs and things that they'll get more calls now because they used to be able to touch you down the field even up to 5 yards, even though that was the rule. They were more physical. And there's a lot of guys that could tell you that same thing, that it changed in that way.
Listen, I'm going to be honest with you, Neal. I believe him when he says he could throw, because Listen to how he's already talking about defenses, and we hear that he's sitting in the quarterback meetings with Tua and Mike White. And he's kept studying defenses. If he had the body, he could still go out there and shred a defense, man.
Dan Marino is the best pure passing quarterback this league's ever seen. I mean, and I don't think it's ever. I mean, I love Pat Mahomes. It's not. Dan Marino was Pat Mahomes before he was Pat Mahomes. I mean,
Before he's Rodgers, yeah.
Yeah, Dan Marino. I mean, dude, I'd take a bullet for the guy. I'm not kidding. I would. I really would. I mean, I love the man.
I believe
made me love the Dolphins.
Kill me, bro.
I love that dude, man. And I believe 100%, man. Dan Marino, he's not only is he my favorite, he's my favorite freaking competitor everywhere, man. That guy cusses his team out. Freaking love that kind of stuff, man. Get your people accountable. But yeah, I believe Dan Marino, man. I love Dan, man, and I love that he's still a part of this organization.
So do I.
And it's amazing, man. I think that it's great, but I always say this because I know there's this whole Tua Dan Marino bit. Tua, look, I love Tua. Tua's not Dan Marino, and they're different players, right? But I have a kid and my son. I want my family, my kids to love me, but eventually they're going to say, you know what, Dad, you give me the foundation. I'm going to go start my own family, right? Everything changes. I want Tua to be better than Dan Marino and win Super Bowls here because that's what things. You don't want your history to be your greatness today. You want things to change. And, for me personally, I think this organization has a great foundation, great history, but it's time.
To make some new history.
The reason we love Dan so much is because we've had a bunch of bullshit in between. Right? I mean, I don't mean this in a bad way. Do you think the Chiefs love Tony Gonzalez like they used to? No.
And he'll get a ring if we win, won't he, because of his role?
Hell yeah, man. I'm going to try to get one for myself, man. I'm going to try to weasel my way. I'll get hired for one day as a freaking Dolphin just to get a ring. I'll go there and start some.
No, you're going to be at the Pawn Star shop just waiting to get on TV,
man.
Coming and looking for a ring.
Who's the biggest degenerate on the Dolphins that's going to pawn their ring in 5 years? I'm going to be best friends with them.
Over 610 of you in the room.
Leah Meikenberg.
Smash that. Yeah, really. Smash that like button. Over 610 of you watching right now. Neal, I'm saving my score prediction for tomorrow. I'll be live around 5:00 for my game preview show. Maybe about 5:30 I'll be live tomorrow for my game preview show. I'll be going in depth. What's your prediction for this weekend? Patriots and Dolphins. Can Tua remain undefeated against Bill Belichick?
Yeah, he's going 5-0 against them. I have the Dolphins winning 37-17. I think the game will start off a little slow, but I think the fireworks will explode. At the end of the day, I love Bill Belichick as a football coach. He's great, right? He just doesn't have the Dolphins' numbers. I think he's got an antiquated way of thinking right now. We haven't really seen that defense be the defense that it used to be with Tom Brady's team. I think Mike McDaniel's going to outsmart him. And at the end of the day, you don't have dogs that can keep up with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I'm predicting. So, I was told because I tweeted my prediction of Tyreek Hill having 200 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. And people were like, you can't just go out and predict 200-yard play. And I did. And Tyreek did it. I'm predicting this week it's going to be a big Jalen Waddle show. 140 yards and a touchdown for Waddle. I think Tua's going to throw another 3 touchdowns in this football game. I think you're going to get a Waddle touchdown. I think you're going to get a Tyreek touchdown. And then I think you're going to get an unsung hero type of touchdown, maybe like an Eric Uzakonma 7-yard out route type touchdown. But I think the Dolphins are going to kick the Patriots' ass because I just think they're a better, well-coached team. I think the defense is going to respond. Mac Jones, to me, sucks. I think he's as mid as it gets, and I think mid's a compliment for him. I'm not going to hold punches this year. I'm not going to do predictions and try to give other teams their flowers. I believe in this Dolphins team. I think we're a buzzsaw, and we're going to be cutting down some New England Patriots this week, 37-17.
Listen, someone had asked yesterday if it was a trap game, and me Ball Game in Richmond said, there's no trap game when it's in this situation because
it's prime time.
It's not even just prime time. It's a rival. You get up out of bed extra for rivals. We know what to expect. And because of what I said, Belichick's undefeated. Listen, I'm going to talk about this on the preview show tomorrow. There's some things I expect out of him potentially. And, you're going to see, I think, his best game plan yet, because if there's one guy who holds a grudge in the NFL, it's Bill Belichick. And he's in the media hearing all the love for Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa right now, thinking to himself, that used to be me and Tom. And I'm going to tell you this right now. He's a bitter old man. he's scheming bitterly right now. So they best be
getting
prepared.
divorced, getting
You know what I
separated,
mean?
or broken up with his long-term girlfriend.
Yeah.
Patriots are worried
I
about
think there'll be a chance for explosive plays, but you got to make them count because I don't think we'll see them in an abundance like we saw against the Chargers.
Yeah, see, here's where I see. Just my thinking is this: this Dolphins team, they're in the national spotlight right now. Like they are well established as probably one of the best offenses. I just think under those lights, Sunday Night Football, this team, this got the swagger, man.
Let's
They have
hope
an
we look
energy.
better than we looked under prime time lights last year, bro. Because
I know.
mean, the Steelers game wasn't very was hit or miss there for a little bit. We know what happened in Cincinnati. Let's hope we look better in prime time this year. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, no, just keep the quarterback upright, and I think things will work out. But I don't see us not leaving that 2-0. Then after that, it's a home opener, man, against a really bad Broncos team that Vic Fangio has probably got some bad blood towards, I'd imagine. And it'll be fun. But man, I look, it's week 2, primetime Sunday Night Football. Man, I can't wait to watch the boys, man. I think it sucks.
But now we gotta wait longer again, bro.
I was just gonna say, for 2 consecutive weeks, I got to go watch everyone else watch football. But I'll tell you what, it was kind of nice this week on the opener to kind of digest the 1:00 games. I watched Lamar struggle a lot in that offense early. I was kind of flipping around.
Zay's a beauty, eh?
Yeah, Zay's going to be a really good player. I think I told you that a Ravens personnel told me that was the best draft pick of the Eric DeCosta era, and I believe it. But dude, you talk about a team decimated by injuries again. They're playing this week without Tyler Linderbaum, Ronnie Stanley, Marcus Williams, Marlon Humphrey, and likely Mark Andrews out, and J.K. Dobbins, who obviously tore his Achilles as well. So interesting, but I watched a little bit of Trevor Lawrence because I had a little juice on that game. Trevor Lawrence looked good. Colts, Anthony Richardson looked good. I was kind of digesting her across the league, man. I'm excited, for the primetime game. I don't even know. I don't even know what the hell I'm going to be watching at 1:00.
But let's you talk about linemen being out. Trent Brown has a concussion. Sal has a concussion for New England right now. David Andrews was limited today for a hamstring. Cole Strange was limited today with a knee. Michael Onwenu was limited with an ankle injury.
Jeez. Wow.
Oh, baby. Feast, baby. Let's go.
Right. Well, look, they'll be okay on defense, especially early, because Matt Judon's a good pass rusher.
Oh, we're going to be ready for the run. We're not going to be hit by surprise by Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah. See, that's why I think it's going to be an ass kicking. I think the defense is going to respond. I really do. I think they're pissed off. Could you imagine though? Like it's like you go to a fair with your brother, and your brother hits the bullseye and gets a big stuffed animal. You go up and throw an air ball and miss and don't get shit. You know what I mean? Like that's how the Dolphins defense has to feel. I ain't
worried. I ain't worried. We're gonna be prepped. We're gonna be ready, man. So I'm good.
Let's do it.
All right, 600 of you in the room. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. We've got over 300 subscribers over the last couple of weeks. Let's keep it rolling. I will see all of y'all tomorrow between 5:30 for the official game preview show. Until then, you already know what time it is. Fins up all day, every day. And don't forget, I'll be live for the primetime live reaction. We'll be doing Finside After Dark. We'll be doing the 5th quarter post-game show after the game ends. So it'll be a late one on Sunday. So be prepared. Till next time, take it easy, everyone.